At 3:22 on the morning of November 21st, 1943, Private First Class Raymond Orbin lay face down in 6 inches of water at the edge of a shell crater on the beach at Betio Island, Tarawa Atoll. With a Japanese rifle bullet lodged 2 inches below his left shoulder blade, and 38 enemy soldiers moving toward his position in the dark. He was 21 years old. He had been in combat for 19 hours. He had already been left for dead once. And he was about to do something every tactical manual written for the United States Marine Corps would have called impossible. Orbin grew up in Harlan County, Kentucky, coal mining country. His father worked the No. 6 mine until a roof collapse in 1937 broke 3 vertebrae and ended that. After that, the family farmed a 40-acre hillside that should not have been farmed. Orbin learned early that the ground in Harlan County would kill you quietly if you gave it the chance. You watched for soft spots. You tested before you committed weight. You never assumed the ground was solid just because it looked solid. He also learned to shoot. Not target shooting, Harlan County shooting. Squirrel at 60 yards with open sights from an awkward position on a steep slope in bad light. His father taught him one rule that Orbin would remember on the beach at Betio. A man who cannot move has 2 choices. He can wait to be found, or he can make the ground work for him. Orbin enlisted at Huntington, West Virginia in March 1942. During boot camp at Paris Island, range instructors noticed he shot differently, wrong form, too much cant, stock position off. But his groups were impossibly tight. His primary instructor, Gunnery Sergeant Frank Holloway, asked where he had learned to shoot. Orbin said the hills. Holloway noted his qualification scores and moved on. Expert with the M1 Garand at 300 yards, expert with the Springfield at 500 yards, highest combined marksmanship score in his training platoon. By November 1943, Orbin was assigned to the 2nd Marine Division, 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. 18 months of training, 0 combat. He was about to make up for that in the worst 27 minutes of his life. The assault on Betio Island began at 09:10 on November 20th, 1943. Betio was defended by 4,500 Japanese troops under Rear Admiral Keiji Shibazaki, who had told his men before the battle that the Americans could not take Betio with 1,000,000 men in 100 years. He had 500 concrete and coral fortifications, 8-inch naval guns, 14 Type 97 tanks, and interlocking machine gun positions covering every approach from the lagoon. The reef surrounding the island had not been properly surveyed. Landing craft hung up on it 500 yards from shore. Marines trained to sprint up a beach under fire instead waded waist-deep into machine guns for 500 yards. In the first 3 hours, the 2nd Marine Division lost 1,500 men killed or wounded. More casualties in 3 hours than the Marine Corps had suffered in the entire Guadalcanal campaign. The beach designated Red Beach 2, where Orbin's platoon landed, was covered by a Japanese Type 92 heavy machine gun in a reinforced concrete bunker 40 yards inland. The Type 92 fired 7.7 millimeter ammunition at 450 rounds per minute. The bunker walls were 18 inches of reinforced concrete. Orbin's platoon had lost its flamethrower operator before the ramp dropped. The satchel charge carrier was still in the water 200 yards from shore. By the time Orbin and 7 others reached the beach, 4 were already hit. Orbin did not crawl. He rolled left behind a dead Marine and lay completely still. He counted the Type 92's traverse pattern, left to right, right to left. Each sweep took 11 seconds. The pause at each end was 2 seconds. He had 6 seconds to move on each cycle. He used 3 cycles to cover 30 yards, rolling to a concrete anti-boat barrier. He reached it at 09:47 and pressed himself against it. From the barrier, he could see the bunker aperture at a 40-degree angle. The gunner was a shape in the darkness. 22 yards. He raised his M1 Garand. He fired once. The shape behind the aperture stopped moving. The Type 92 fell silent. He did not know that 11 other Marines had been watching from different positions, pinned by the same gun. When it went quiet, all 11 moved. Orbin was already repositioning, because the bunker crew would have another gunner within a minute. He was right. It was firing again in 40 seconds. But by then, the 11 Marines were in different positions, and the traverse no longer covered all of them. Orbin spent the rest of November 20th moving through the island's interior with what remained of his platoon. They cleared 4 Japanese positions and reached the south coast of Betio by 1700. The island was 800 yards wide at that point. It had taken 9 hours to cross it. 22 Marines had started that morning. 7 reached the south coast. At 1840, a Japanese rifleman in a spider hole 8 yards away fired once. The bullet entered Orbin's back below the left shoulder blade, missed his left lung by 3/4 of an inch, and lodged against his 3rd rib. It did not exit. The impact knocked him forward into the sand. He did not lose consciousness. He lay still and took inventory. He could breathe. He could move his left arm, though not without pain. He could not stand without assistance. He had his M1 Garand, 2 full 8-round clips, 1 partial clip with 3 rounds, and a K-bar fighting knife. His platoon's remaining 6 men were 40 yards north. They did not see him go down. The sound of the shot was lost in 11 hours of continuous battle noise. Orbin called out once. Nobody came. He crawled southeast along the south coast, using his right arm, keeping his left side elevated. He found the shell crater at 1920 and rolled into it. 6 inches of water at the bottom. He settled in with his back against the inland wall, facing south, and waited for daylight. He had been in the crater for 4 hours when he heard them. If you want to see what Raymond Orbin did next with 2 clips, 3 loose rounds, and a bullet still inside him, hit that like button right now. It helps us find these forgotten men. Subscribe if you haven't already. Back to Orbin. The Japanese patrol was moving along the south coast from west to east. At 03:15 on November 21st, Orbin counted them as they passed his crater. He counted by sound. Footsteps, equipment, the cadence of a column moving with discipline but not complete silence. They thought the south coast was clear. They had been told the Americans were concentrated on the North Beach. One American was in a shell crater 8 feet from their line of march, with a bullet in his back and his rifle across his knees. He counted 38. Standard doctrine for a wounded Marine in an isolated position was clear. Remain concealed. Do not initiate contact. Wait for friendly forces. The doctrine existed because isolated wounded men who initiated contact were usually killed. The doctrine had not been written for Betio. It had not accounted for 38 enemy soldiers moving along a route that ran directly between an isolated Marine and any path to friendly lines. Orbin could let them pass, but at their pace they would reach the North Beach in 40 minutes. His platoon's 7 surviving men were on the North Beach. The Japanese patrol, moving in the dark along a route those men had not been told to watch, would hit them from behind. Orbin did the arithmetic. He had 19 rounds. He was in a 3-foot-deep crater on flat terrain. His wound made rapid movement impossible. He could not chase, retreat, or flank. One position, 19 rounds. A target column still bunched from the march. His father had told him once that a man in a bad position has one advantage a man in a good position does not. When you cannot afford to miss, you do not miss. At 0322, the last element of the Japanese patrol was passing his crater. The column had stretched slightly, creating a gap between the main body and the trailing element. 6 men, slightly bunched, moving with less interval. Orbin came up out of the water onto his right knee. His first shot hit the rearmost man at 9 yards. The Garand was semi-automatic, next round already chambered. He fired again, second man forward. The column was reacting now, turning, fragmenting. He fired again, 4 rounds in 4 seconds, 4 men down. The trailing element broke toward him. Wrong move. They were closing the range. At 5 yards, even a wounded Marine with a bullet in his back does not miss. 3 more in 2 seconds, 7 down. 1 round left in the clip. He dropped into the water as Japanese rifle fire came back at his muzzle flash. Rounds cracked overhead. 1 hit the crater rim and sprayed coral across his right shoulder. He pressed the new clip in while submerged. 8 rounds. He came up on the right side of the crater, 6 feet from where he had first fired. The Japanese were putting fire on his old position. He put his front sight on their muzzle flashes. What Orbin understood, and the patrol did not, was that the coral ground of Betio had almost no cover. A man lying flat on pale coral in starlight at 15 yards is visible to someone from Harlan County who has been adjusting his eyes to darkness for 4 hours. He fired 4 times, reloaded the partial clip, 3 rounds, fired twice more. Pressed in his last full clip, the main body had reorganized. 12 men moving toward him in a spread line, using the leapfrog advance. 1 man moves, others cover, repeat. Sound tactic. He had 11 rounds. He did not engage the moving men. He engaged the stationary ones. The men providing covering fire had to hold still to shoot accurately. Still men on flat coral were visible. He took 3 covering men before the pattern changed. The advancing soldiers stopped leapfrogging and rushed him together. 7 men, 11 yards. He fired 6 times in approximately 4 seconds. 5 of the 7 went down before they reached the crater rim. The 6th landed in the water. The 7th was right behind him. What happened in the next 40 seconds was not rifle work. Orbin was 21 years old, 147 pounds, with a bullet in his back. The man who landed in the crater was unwounded and outweighed him by 30 pounds. The second man was a step behind and coming fast. He had practiced with the K-bar 3 hours a week for 18 months. Practice and reality share almost nothing except muscle memory. He used the muscle memory. Both men were down in the water when the second soldier came over the rim. He hesitated for a fraction of a second because the water was dark and he couldn't tell which figure was the enemy. Orbin solved his uncertainty by shooting him with the Garand, which he had somehow retained at a range measurable in inches. 1 round left. The main body had stopped advancing. They had sent 7 men, and none came back. They did not know how many Americans were in that crater. They had heard at least 2 weapons. The tactical picture was unclear. An unknown number of enemies in a fortified position had just killed 15 of their number in roughly 6 minutes. Orbin understood their uncertainty was his only remaining asset. He fired his last round in the direction of the main body, not at a specific target, simply to announce the position was still active. Then he lay flat in the water and did not move. The Japanese patrol did not advance. They held position for 11 minutes. Orbin counted seconds. He heard urgent conversation. He heard what sounded like an officer's voice. Then he heard them moving. West, back the way they had come. Not toward the North Beach. Retreating. At 0349, Orbin was alone on the south coast. 38 men's worth of evidence around him. One bullet hole in his back, no ammunition. The Marines who found him at 0611 were from C Company, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, doing a south coast sweep. The corporal leading the fire team saw the crater from 40 yards and brought his men around it slowly from 3 directions. He expected to find a Japanese fighting position. He found Orbin, sitting upright in 6 inches of bloody water. K-bar across his knees, counting bodies. The corporal asked him how many. Orbin said he counted 23 in the immediate area. He thought there were more to the west. He was correct. The patrol's survivors had not gotten far. The sweep found them. Total confirmed dead from the patrol action on the south coast. Betio Island, 0322 to 0349 on November 21st, 1943, 38. 1 Marine, 1 Garand, 19 rounds, 1 K-bar, 1 bullet already inside him when it started. 27 minutes. The battalion's replacement commander, Major Howard Rice, received the after-action report and read it 3 times. He had been in the Marines for 16 years. He had no frame of reference for the numbers on the page. He submitted a recommendation for the Navy Cross. Orbin received it in April 1944 at Camp Pendleton. He returned to the Pacific for Saipan and Tinian. He was not wounded again. He finished the war as a private first class, twice refusing promotion to sergeant because he did not want the administrative responsibilities. He returned to Harlan County in October 1945. He went back to farming the 40-acre hillside. He did not talk about Betio. Neighbors who knew he had served asked what it had been like. He told them it had been wet. That was usually the end of the conversation. His Navy Cross citation was framed and hung in the county courthouse in the 1950s by the American Legion Post without his knowledge. When he found out, he asked them to take it down. He said he did not like being looked at. The citation came down. He married in 1947. 4 children. He worked the farm and starting in 1952 went back to the number 6 mine. He was careful about soft spots. He tested before committing weight. He knew how to read ground that wanted to kill him. He died on August 14th, 1989. He was 66 years old. His obituary ran 4 paragraphs. It mentioned his Marine service, his Navy Cross, his wife and 4 children, his 30 years at the number 6 mine. It did not mention November 21st, 1943. It did not mention 38 men. It did not mention 27 minutes. The Harlan County Veterans Memorial, dedicated in 2003, includes his name on a panel listing county residents who received combat decorations in World War II. People pass it. Some stop and read. Most do not. They do not know what the cold water felt like at 0315 on November 21st, 1943. They do not know what it sounded like to count 38 sets of footsteps going past in the dark and make the calculation Orbin made. They do not know what a man from Harlan County tells himself in the 40 seconds between the first shot and the moment when the last man comes over the crater rim. But they should. If this story moved you the way it moved us, hit that like button right now. Every single like tells YouTube to show this story to more people who have never heard Raymond Orbin's name. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We pull these men out of archives every single day and bring them here. Real people. Real numbers. Real ground that wanted to kill them. Drop a comment and tell us where you are watching from. Our community stretches across the entire world. You are not just a viewer. You are part of why these men do not disappear completely. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making sure Raymond Orbin is not forgotten. These men deserve to be remembered, and you are helping make that happen.